Welcome to another episode here at Mindflow. Today we'll be talking about some of the reasons why you should go to therapy. Now, it's not very common here in the Pacific or in Fiji for us to share some of the things that we're going through. And it may be a cultural thing where we might find it difficult rather to open up about certain things. But therapy does provide you a safe and confidential space where you can explore some things and just allow yourself to find some solutions and also develop a bit of an understanding. Now, some 6 reasons why you should probably go for therapy here in the Pacific is because in therapy, the first reason is that you can talk about some of the things that are challenging you without being judged. Now, it's very common here for us to withhold or for us to not share things because the communities here are very small and we don't really feel like we're comfortable sharing because you'll feel like there might be a game of Chinese whisper or something, and then this person might tell the next person or might tell the next person, and there's always the fear of being ridiculed or judged, especially when it comes to things that you're going through. And sometimes it might come from that place, or sometimes it might come from a place where you just don't feel like you want to burden people. Now, therapists, counselors, and therapists, it's their actual job to sit there in that space with you, help you navigate these things, help you understand these things, and to help you talk about the challenges without feeling judged. Therapists, they often work with the idea of being not judgmental and being just curious to allow you to be able to express yourself. And that can be really beneficial for us here in the Pacific, or especially here in Fiji, because what happens in that space, it can't leave that space. It's very confidential and it's bounded by your client and therapist agreement to be able to maintain that confidentiality. And that's just a fancy way of saying that whatever you say in the session stays in the session. And I think that could provide some real solutions to a lot of people who might be going through certain things. Now, the second is it helps you understand, or it helps you gain some new perspective on certain things, or helps you identify some unhelpful patterns that you might be going through or that you might be using that maybe just putting you in a position where you're not progressing. And some examples of this here in the Pacific or here in Fiji is that you might be looking at certain things a certain type of way. Say, for example, you're stressed because you have all these commitments to your family and to your community, and then you have all these bills that are piling up. And one thing that therapy can help you do is it can help you understand where to set some boundaries or where to put more importance on or place more importance on. And therapy can help you identify unhelpful patterns in behavior when it comes to you just working through anger. If you understand some of the triggers of that anger and you understand why you felt that way, that can help you better navigate that in the future. Say, for example, before, if someone cut you off in traffic, your first thing is to toot your horn really fast, maybe peek out the window, give him a few not so kind words, and then maybe flip him off or something, and then that affects your whole day. So then the next person that interacts with you in that state, and then you're already agitated, and then for some reason that might carry on to the next person, and you might take out your anger on the next person that you encounter. And these are just having these patterns, just discussing these patterns with your therapist. It helps you understand which patterns might be helpful for you and which patterns are not working for you. And that's why therapists, they help you reframe your thoughts. They help reframe some of the things, they paraphrase certain things to you, and then they just provide you a different perspective so that when you're listening to it, it sounds, oh, Okay, I never really thought of it that way. There's a lot of power in us being able to be aware of certain things when you talk about it. And that's why therapy is there. And I think that could help here in the Pacific, here, especially in Fiji. If you're in therapy, it can help you navigate or help you understand certain things about yourself that you might not have understood because you just never really took the time to think about it. And the third would be, sometimes in our communities, it's hard to feel. There may be cases, or there might be times where you don't feel like you're heard, or you don't feel like your opinions matter, or you don't feel like you've been supported or you're validated. And that can be a very difficult space to be in. You can be in a room full of people and just feel like you're alone. You feel like nobody listens to me, or nobody understands what I'm going through. Therapy provides that opportunity for you to be able to feel like you're validated, to be able to feel like you're supported in whatever you're going through, whether it be something that's highly emotional, or whether it just be something that's stressing you out on a day-to-day basis, such as work, or maybe something to do with your relationships. It really helps to feel like you're heard, especially in a time where you're keeping all these things to yourself and you just feel it might not, talking about it's not going to help. I can honestly tell you today, from a therapist that has worked in this field for upwards of 8 years now, there's a lot of strength in you being able to talk about it. And there's a lot of healing as well in you being heard for the first time. And that's one thing that therapy does provide, especially in Fiji. Say, for example, you've been telling people, or you've been feeling like, man, I can't cope with everything. I can't keep up with the bills. I can't keep up with my responsibilities to my family. I can't keep up with my profession. And all these thoughts are just swirling around in your head, and you haven't spoken to anyone about it. And then when you did feel like when you did speak rather to someone, and then they just brushed it off. They brushed it off and said, everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be okay. And then that feeling you get when you just feel like this guy doesn't really understand. He doesn't know what I'm going through. You won't get to go through that with someone who's a trained therapist, because they can help validate what you're going through, and that can help offer you a different perspective on it too. And while working on solutions as well. And the fourth one would rather be, and I touched on this just earlier, a therapist can help you process your emotions. Now, emotions is something, especially here in the Pacific context, in Fiji, it's not something that we're normally taught about. It's not something that we're taught. We're not given any guidelines on how to help ourselves when it comes to emotions. That's why you have there's a lot of cases of anger, and anger that's portrayed in such a manner outwards that it's very obvious. There's very obvious signs of anger. People, they react very hard, even to the point where it becomes violent. And that's just around anger. There's other emotions there. There's sadness, there's grief, there's feelings of anxiety, there's feelings of fear. A therapist, their job is to help you process these emotions, and it's their job to help you understand these emotions and where it comes from. And I think that could be a huge aid for a lot of us here in the Pacific, especially for us that aren't used to talking about emotions. When you were younger, were you ever asked, when it came to being sad, did you ever talk about that sadness to someone? Did you ever speak about being angry at a certain point? Why you were angry? No, emotional discussion is not something in our forte here in the Pacific. And there might be avenues, especially in the churches or in community groupings, or say youth groups or something, where you can talk about these things. But overall, it's very rare for us to have discussions where we process our emotions. And therapy can allow you to do that. And that does bring to a good point. That does bring a good point in saying that a lot of times we do avoid talking about our emotions because it's very difficult to work through them. It's very difficult to process them in real time. But in a therapist setting, you can talk about that in a safe setting where you're not judged by how you feel. Like, say, if you reacted a certain type of way, you wouldn't. The therapist is not there to make you feel bad about it. He's not there to judge you about it. He's not there to make you feel like it was wrong for you to do that. A therapist, their job is to just allow you to be able to process these things better and to understand it and to be able to see what part of you made you feel that way and why did you feel that way. Providing that closure does help. And in saying that, one of the fifth reasons that you should go to therapy here in the Pacific is because it provides a safe space. It provides a safe space for you to be able to learn more about yourself. Just a personal anecdote here. The whole reason I got into this profession was because I wanted to understand a lot about myself. And I remember the first time I went into a therapy room and I spoke to a counselor. And I was having a lot of difficulties trying to process certain things. Like, I didn't know why I was thinking this certain type of way. And what it taught me was that there was a lot of parts of myself where I hadn't even explored yet. And that's one thing that therapy does provide. It does allow you to it allows you to be able to learn a lot about yourself. And how the saying goes, where it's always in those times of discomfort where you find out certain aspects about yourself, whether it be a crisis or whether it be a very hard learning. When you do go to a therapist and you communicate about these things, you'll be able to identify that you're really capable of a lot more. And that's what therapists do. They help identify your strengths. They help identify the parts of you that might help you in certain situations. And then you have discussions and dialogues on how to use that. And that's very important. Just to go back to that example about me getting into this profession, I wanted to understand why it was so hard for me to pursue certain things. And what therapy did provide me is that it helped me understand that all of these things, it came from a place where I had not worked through certain things. I had not processed certain things in my life that happened. And these were very significant things. And I had to go through that in order to understand that, okay, this thing happened in my life when I was younger. And that's why I act this way now. So therapy does provide you a lot of learning. It does provide you a lot of learning about yourself, and it's a good way for you to explore these things in a safe environment. Now, the last thing is, I think that one of the biggest things about therapy, is that it does help you teach you skills. It teaches you a lot of really important things about your life. And the thing is with therapy is that you work on skills such as being able to manage your stress, being able to manage situational events when it does occur. Say, for example, if you do have problems, say, speaking in public, or if you do have problems when it comes to just being around other people, like having a bit of social anxiety, you can develop new skills in therapy, because therapy helps you first be more aware of those situations, and then it helps build a system around those things. Because you discuss that with your therapist, they help provide you, okay, this is a treatment plan, this is a action plan, this is something. They provide you with all these tools that you can use in order for you to move forward in a way that you can better cope with yourself. And the coping strategies that you learn in therapy, different coping strategies react differently to different people. But the good thing about therapy is that you can discuss and actually practice these things and then work on it in a way where, you're working at your own pace and that you're actually doing something to help yourself in that situation. Now, those are some of the reasons that I could think of when it comes to therapy. But if you do have any more reasons, please do contact us on the contact in our bio. And if you do have any questions, please do, just drop us a comment and then we can always talk about it. We're now available.